Hello everybody and welcome back to more Everdream Valley. I have been playing this game feverishly since it launched and I am pretty much done with all of the quests. So until they add new content in future updates, this probably will be the final Everdream Valley tips and tricks video that I will make for a while. Once the quests are done, you don't have to stop playing it. You can still raise your crops, raise your animals, and sell all of that stuff to try to make more money for things that maybe you haven't bought yet. And I do hope they will add more content in the future. However, with the Switch release coming up soon, hopefully, and I know there are still a lot of new PC players, PlayStation players coming to Everdream Valley, there might be a few things that you guys would like some pointers on. So without further ado, let's get into it. One thing that has changed since my last video is they offer an additional setting. If you go into your settings and then gameplay, you can turn on polite wolves. You don't like the really scary ones. I don't know exactly what this does because I really haven't seen any wolves at all lately. But if you're concerned about impolite wolves, I'm thinking they made them less scary. You can toggle that on. And if you don't like holding your run key down, you can now turn that into a toggle. And then if you like to take screenshots like I do, such as when I'm trying to make my thumbnails, you can hide your user interface with the click of a key, which is really cool. Next up, if you have not started playing or are very new to the game, let me tell you something I wish I knew. When you start the game, if you go into your barn and open your storage chest, I believe you have at least one pumpkin and one strawberry. There might be more than one. But I accidentally made these into recipes and I didn't know you cannot find the pumpkins or the strawberries anywhere else in the game. So if you use them in recipes, you're not going to be able to grow them. And there's no other way around that currently except for restarting, which is a bummer. I'm hoping that in future updates, they will allow the merchant to sell you these items. Of course, if you had sold the pumpkin and strawberry to him, I think that unlocks the ability to purchase more. But if you're like me and you make it into a recipe, then you're kind of up a creek without a paddle. Making money in Everdream Valley. I made a short about this because I thought it was so important. If you are new to the game, trying to make money, especially if you're trying to make money for that electric motor that costs like 15 grand, you need this recipe. It is called shakshuka, and I'm hoping I'm saying that right. But you are going to go over to your cooking station. You are going to add 2 tomatoes and 2 eggs. It doesn't matter what kind of egg. Cook those 4 things together, and that will make your shakshuka. Take that to the merchant. This sells for $23.46.60. Over $2,300 just for cooking 2 tomatoes and 2 eggs together. You can make a ton of money on this. I'm thinking they might nerf this in the future, but for right now, it is still active and it is, I think, the best way to make money. You make more on that than raising and selling 1 sheep, which that takes a lot more effort and more time. So make the shakshuka. Catching beetles. If you have the beetle terrarium or for some reason you just like catching beetles, let me give you a little tip. You can go up to rocks, and if it gives you the option, you can kick the rock. Kick the rock, and there is a high probability you will see a beetle run out from there, and then you just press your interact button and you can catch the beetle. So real quick way for catching beetles, if that's your thing. The next 4 items are all found in the southeast area of your map. And if I remember right, the bridge that you need to get there, I think you have to have nails to fix. So if you can't fix that bridge yet, you're just going to have to wait until you complete enough quests and dreams that you will be given some nails. So once you have that bridge to the southeast area fixed, you're going to find quite a bit down there. And we've already covered some of that in my first video. 4 other things that are in this area are goose feathers, flour, the hedge recipe, and also 5 free sprinklers. We'll start with the goose feathers. I'm not really sure why you would want these because they don't sell for much, and I'm not aware of any recipes that use these yet, But if you need them, go down in the southeast. Make sure you have band-aids because the geese are relentless, and I equip my little wooden sword and they still get me. But if you go to the area where all the geese are, you'll see them. They're on the map. There will be little white goose feathers on the ground. You can collect those. They're worth like $3, nothing much. But if for some reason they are important in the future, that's where they are. While you're in that same area, look for the flower grain that's growing. It looks a bit like the calamus, that grass that you sow for your animals. It's kind of a brown tint. It looks like grass, but it's brownish. Take your wooden sword and slice it, and you will get the flower grain. You can then take that to your windmill, fill up your windmill, and then that will grind that into flour. Currently, I think there's only one recipe that uses flour. It's a cabbage recipe. And again, I imagine they will add more. But if you need flour, that's how you get it. Also in that area, you will find the hedges. If you want to make fences that look like bushes, like hedges, I have these around my chicken coops. You will see them in the southeast area. They are right around an old barn, I believe. And once you see them, you can then go to your grandfather and he will give you the blueprint how to make those. I think you just need grass and wood to make those. Also in that area, you have 5 free sprinklers. And by the time you find these, you might not need them anymore. And also, sprinklers are not very expensive, especially if you're making that shakshuka recipe I told you about at the beginning of this video. But anyhow, there are 5 free sprinklers down in the southeast area. There are a couple old barns. 3 sprinklers will be sitting outside, and 2 sprinklers will be inside. While we're on the topic of sprinklers, I've had a few questions about how you connect multiple sprinklers together, and I was a little bit unsure how to do this at first as well. So let me explain how you do this. You're going to have your water pump in your pond, right? And then you have the electric cable going from there to the wind turbine. You're going to take your garden hose and also connect that to your water pump, and then take the other end of that garden hose to your sprinkler. Make sure you have enough garden hose. If you don't, it won't connect. If you want to add additional sprinklers, you're going to daisy chain off of that first sprinkler. Do not go back and try to connect the garden hose to your water pump. You can only put one garden hose on your water pump. So take your garden hose and connect it to the sprinkler that you want to daisy chain off of, and then connect the other end to your other sprinkler. And you can keep doing this. I don't know if there's a limit. Mine looks pretty messy. I have a whole bunch of garden hoses running everywhere, but it does the job. And if you need multiple sprinklers, which, trust me, you're going to want them. It saves from so much time watering. That's how you do it. The last quest we're going to talk about, I call the Beaver quest. I believe it's titled, Get Rid of the Water from the Boar's Home. And this one is a bit tricky, it's a bit tedious, and it takes a while to complete. And it's essential to completing the story of the game. So this is going to take a little bit of time to explain. First, you are to make a breach in the dam. That's pretty self-explanatory. Just go up to the dam and kick it. The next step is to grow trees with the help of forest nurseries. Your grandparents will give you a blueprint to make these little forest nurseries. Basically, it's a little garden planter that you put underneath one of your trees, and it will allow you to grow a seedling from the tree that it's next to. And you will have to water this, I believe, once or twice. And then after a few days, you will have your seedling tree. And you have to grow 15 of these. The problem I ran into with the trees was it took so long to complete that I accidentally planted some of the trees that I grew and collected. So when it said I had completed my 15, I went to plant them and I didn't have enough. So I went and dug up some, right? Well, it knows the trees that you've grown in your nursery versus the ones that you dig up. So I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to play so many more days and get all these trees back. But no, you can kind of trick it. So if you can, definitely save all of those trees that you grew. But let me just show you a little trick that worked for me. And I kind of feel bad showing you a cheat, but I accidentally found this out. I took one of the seedlings that I grew. It was a legit seedling. I went to the area that we needed to move the beavers back into. It's their old area, right? And it had a little yellow circle, so I knew where to plant it. I planted the tree there. I could tell that it reduced the number that I still needed to plant to complete that part of the quest. And then I thought, what happens if I dig it up and plant it again? It wouldn't count, would it? It does. So I completed that part of the quest by repeatedly digging up the little seedling I just planted and then replanting it. So it was kind of cheating, but I did plant the right number of trees. They just weren't all my seedling trees. Once that is completed, you then have to chase the 5 beavers that are in the boars area back to the old habitat of the beavers, and you have to get them across this bridge. That is the tricky part. I spent probably over an hour trying to do this, and let me share with you what worked and what didn't work. My brain just can't figure out how to do the herding with the dog. It was just messy and cumbersome, and it was much easier just to use fences. I happen to have a bunch of fencing in my pocket. Now, you can do this much neater if you plan ahead, but this is just what I had on me, and it ended up working. I set up some fences right by the bridge, and what worked really well is I had a couple gates. So I would leave the gate open, and then I would run and get one. I had to do one beaver at a time. I got a beaver. I herded it towards the bridge and my fence. It went through my open gate. I then turned around and closed the gate, went and herded the beaver towards the bridge, and this time with the gate closed, it couldn't get through that wall of fencing, and eventually it went over the bridge, and this took forever. And then once you're over the bridge, you have to herd it a little bit farther to get into the yellow area of their original habitat, and then you get to do that 4 more times. I am not aware of a faster way to do this. If any of you have some tips for this, please let me know in the comments. But this will get the job done, and you will get all 5 beaver across the bridge. The last part of the beaver quest is to destroy the dam. Now that's pretty easy, just go up to it and kick it. However, completing that quest, of course, will start another quest. In addition to that, you are lowering the water, right? Because the dam is gone, the water level is receding, and you finally can get to the section of the map that you have not been able to get to. I was thinking that there was some other bridge or that I would have to take horses across, but no, the beaver dam is the key to that. And now you can complete taking your final picture for the photography quest, as well as going into the heart of the old forest. However, once you go to that new area of the map and you think, oh wow, I'm going to get this quest done, I can get to the heart of the old forest. No, you cannot yet, because it looks like the fog on the map is lifting, and then suddenly you have this dense fog all around you and you can't see, and you kind of can get lost, so be careful. So you will have to wait, go back home, where you will have a dream about blue fireflies. After that, you can go back to that section, complete the photography quest for Grandma, the one quest you've had for so long. You can finally complete that and show the pictures to Grandma. You also will go back to the heart of the old forest, and you're going to have a final quest, basically, that involves a mysterious hut. This one is pretty easy and self-explanatory, plus there are some things that happen that reveal the story behind the mysteriousness of Everdream Valley and the magic, and I don't want to spoil that for you, so you get to figure that one out on your own. Before we go, I want to give you a quick tour of my farm, because I have spent quite a few hours this week making some changes, making it look a little pretty. I've had a lot of fun with catching fireflies and making little firefly jars, because at night it looks spectacular. As well as the firefly jars, I have enjoyed taking the flower seeds and sprinkling them all over my farm and just making it look extra cute. In addition to that, let's talk about the animals. The chicken coops, I have given them a bit of a facelift. I'm not done because I need to rearrange the nest boxes for the chickens, but I added hedging around them, and that really helped to keep the chickens cooped up because they were everywhere on my farm before. I still have a couple missing that I haven't found, But the hedges I think look really nice, and they keep the chickens cooped up. The only other animals I have on my main farm are my horses. I don't think I had those in the last video, but I've been breeding my horses and I have a good collection of them. Now there is a horse dream, and I cannot for the life of me beat it. Once I do, I think I gain the ability to ride horses, which I would love, but I can't come in first in that horse race dream. It is so tricky. I can't control that horse. So in the meantime, I'm just enjoying my horses, and I think they're really cute. The rest of the animals I actually moved, and I spent a lot of time chopping wood and making new fencing. Take a look at where my animals are. They have pretty big pastures, and I have them all separated. I've got my sheep, my alpaca, and my pigs on the right, and my goats and my cows are on the left. They have huge enclosures. I have a lot of breeds now, but the reason that I moved them was I was so tired of having to lead them such a long distance to get to the merchant to sell them. So this way I can breed them more often, and it's not such a pain to sell them because the distance to get to the merchant is shorter. One thing to note is you can use trees as shelters. I haven't found where this doesn't work yet, but I still had some old shelters. So I have animal shelters in most of them, but during the rain, it's so funny. They huddle under the shelters as well as under the trees. So that tells me they know the trees provide them some shelter from the weather, but they kind of go in circles. The alpaca are the funniest whenever it rains. It's really cute. So if it's raining on your farm, go and check out what your animals are doing. It's usually pretty funny. That's pretty much it for the quests until they add new content to the game. Between this video and the other two that I made, I think that I've covered the toughest quests, and if you still have any other questions, I will try to help. You can drop those in the comments below. And also, Everdream Valley does have a Discord, and I have a Discord too. I've seen so many new faces in there. And speaking of new faces, I just want to thank you guys. Since my Everdream Valley videos have come out, we've gotten over 100 new subscribers to the channel, and I'm so thankful for all of you, and I welcome you all here. If you haven't already, please drop a like and consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.